Okay, so the gout meal plan guide is also pretty similar to what we've been talking about. As far as kind of like a 3 and 3 plan to kind of keep it simple. Um, so with gout, and I've had a couple people with gout, and the first guy I ever had with gout, he checked with his doctor. Nutritional support study was up to them. This was years ago. His doctor actually gave him the okay to be on 5-in-1 because he was not in flare-ups, but I don't think that's the recommendation they make at all. So, because if you look at the specialty plans here, you have your teens, the nursing mothers. So the gout plan is for clients with gout or have had a history of gout. So I'm assuming that to be that whether they're having a flare-up or not, that they probably should be following this because this is watching their uric acid and whereas 5-in-1 they're getting too much protein they might and maybe that could actually cause a flare up. So anyway, that's so with the oops, where did I go? Did I skip something? Yes, I skipped this. Okay, so and then again, I know you guys can't really read this, but basically with the food plan for gout, I'm just going to kind of read this since you guys can't. It promotes gradual weight loss. It encourages food choices with only low or moderate amounts of proteins, which is important for people with gout to limit. So if they suffer with gout, achieving a healthy weight can help with that condition. Excess weight puts more stress on the joints and can increase the risk of hyperuricemia. And Optavia fuelings are a healthy option for people with gout, but the modifications they recommend are that they lose weight slower and steadily. So it's more liberal with calories and carbohydrates, but it's actually more restrictive in protein than the optimal weight 5-in-1 plan. So that's to lessen the risk of the increased uric acid levels. So there's no fat burning state for someone who has gout because that can increase the uric acid levels in the blood. The higher calorie level promotes a more gradual weight loss than the regular optimal weight 5-in-1, and it encourages the food choices with only the low or moderate amounts of purines. So it's going to incorporate a balance of low purine foods, moderate protein, and 2 Optavia fuelings. So the nursing moms plan had 3 Optavia fuelings a day. The gout one has 2 Optavia fuelings they're having a day. And again, I would do the same thing with the Optimal Health Kit, and it's just further apart, 7 weeks or whatever till they order again. They're still going to eat 6 times a day, every 2 to 3 hours. And then you're going to use this food group chart for them to help them. They're getting 2 of the Optavia fuelings a day. They're getting 2 servings of grains, 3 servings of vegetables, 2 servings of fruit, and then 2 servings of lean meat or a meat substitute, but only 3 ounces. So 2 3-ounce servings. That's a huge difference. 2 servings of dairy a day and 3 fats a day. And then they give a sample meal plan. And then again, there's a tracker to go along with that. They just check mark the boxes. Okay. So this kind of gives a little more explanation for the gout guide on the recommendations. And it kind of helps give you a little understanding as to why they're doing it. So they're saying limit the animal protein in their diet. Choose no more than 6 ounces of low or moderate purine choices of lean meat, poultry, or fish per day. Incorporate 2 servings of the low-fat dairy products, aiming for 1,200 calories a day, because the more calories helps to decrease the potential of the elevated uric acid levels. And then they're going to choose the foods that are low or moderate in purines to avoid the moderate purine choices during a gout flare-up. So if they're having a flare-up, they definitely want to stay on just the low purine choices. So, and no alcohol, that's definitely bad for people with gout. So the higher protein, higher purine veggies are asparagus, cauliflower, mushrooms, peas, spinach. They want to completely avoid those during a flare-up. But those are, general recommendations. They're going to want to consult with their healthcare provider. Russ, if this was kind of a summary of it, did Optavia provide a list? I mean, I'm assuming there's a list of the low, and it's been so long since I've had a gout person, so I'm not that familiar. Did they provide a list of what the lower and moderate purine choices are? I think
No,
it's the vegetables, right? And then,
right. It's more the vegetables, but they're wanting to limit animal protein. In other words,
mm,
getting more of your protein from your dairy, your vegetarian sources, because animal protein is what can cause flare-ups that are higher in pruines. And I think they don't list exactly everything, but somebody that has gout is generally familiar with what foods have higher pruine levels than others. So even though there's a gout guide, what we've covered today is the major points to coaching somebody with gout. I've coached many people with gout over the years. It's really tough on them. I find that they do really well at the beginning. They lose 20, 25 pounds. They have a flare up and then they fall away from the plan and they never quite come back to it. So, and the reason is they don't follow the guideline. They kind of say, "Hey, I'm familiar with gout. I know this situation. I know what foods I can and can't eat." But
Mm-hmm.
when they're trying to incorporate it, they don't follow the checkbox. Actually, I've not had anybody with gout since we've created the tracker, and I would imagine the tracker would help them be
Mm-hmm.
more routine to eating the right kinds of foods. So,
Yeah. Well, and they say if you are doing lean meat, poultry, or fish, just don't have more than six
right.
ounces. And yeah, and I guess if you just tell them to stay away from these higher purine. But I do remember the couple people that I've had on gout, they seemed to know the veggies that they needed to avoid. So that's true. I was just wondering. But Pam, I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, good morning. um, I've had a few people with gout and they all responded differently and approached it differently. So you really have to discuss it with them. So I had one follow the gout plan perfectly and she did well, but kind of like Russ said, eventually she fell off and it just got too difficult with the meal plan. She was following exactly what they tell her to have. And then I actually have a coach who did not do the gout plan. He did the 5-in-1 because he has medication that regulates the gout. And he's never had a problem that I know of. He never shared with me anything. And he's still doing it. So, and it's been a year. So I think if they're on medication, you don't have to worry about it as much. I think it's their level of comfort with it. And then I had another one that it was when I was brand new and I really didn't know. But he had a flare up. And so he stopped. So, I've had out of the three all different experiences with it. So, but
Well,
I'm curious if anybody else has had somebody that's actually had the medicine to control it because it sounds like then they didn't matter.
well, I think it all boils down to that you need to encourage them to stay in close contact with your doctor because like my guy, I mean, this was probably 10, 12 years ago. And my guy that did 5-in-1, his doctor said he could do 5-in-1. Like I sent him the literature on it, but I don't think, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think he was on any medication because he was not in a flare up. The doctor had just said, if you develop a flare up, then I want you to, and he didn't want him to be doing that. But he never had a flare up and he did really well on it. But yeah, I'm wondering if anybody else, but like I say, I don't know if he was on the meds. He never mentioned, I don't remember him mentioning that. Lorelai.
Good morning. Yes, I had a client who was on the 5-in-1. She went and lost about 70 pounds. She suffered from gout. There were times when she had a select some non-chocolate fuelings because she noticed that that would affect her. But overall, she did really well until she didn't. And then we just switched over to the 1,200 calorie plan. And she's slowly but surely still losing weight.
Great.
So it's just, they do well for months and then they get, and I don't think she was on any medication, but she just happened to lose about 70 pounds in the 5-in-1.
Awesome.
Yeah, Sherry, and I think the other thing too, Lorelai, you make a really good point, is that every client I've had with gout, it depends on their commitment to following the plan and following the doctor's orders. It's when they go out to eat with friends and they eat something that they know they shouldn't eat, and all of a sudden they have a flare up. The first thing they do is abandon the meal plan. And the first thing they should have done is probably not gone out and had that cheeseburger. So it's one of those things where I have found this is probably the more difficult plan for clients. And like I said, I've had some be successful, but they either powered through a flare up and they just were able to go to the lower pruing level foods. And they were really good at managing their own diet and they did well. But for the most part, I find that when they have their first flare up, it gives them either an excuse or they get scared and they just pull back on everything. And so that's why I think this particular training and the guide and the tracker can be a really great tool for all of us to better help support somebody with gout moving forward. So,
and I think it gives us more confidence too.
yes.
And also hearing all this, what I personally would make sure to do is educate my client from the get-go that, look, this is what I commonly see that, you know, people kind of tend, and then if they get a flare up, but it's like work with me through that, you know, I would, you know, just because obviously, I mean, I think if you're educating them too, that it's really important that you follow this or you're going to get you might get a flare up. So if you don't, if you're eating the wrong kinds of foods, which they would get anyway, they know that, but anyway, but I think it's definitely helpful. Hopefully you guys have found it helpful.